Tuesday Thoughts here on SDH. John here, you there, and we're kind of in a no dilly, no dally zone because of what's happening up in Nashville and folks in full-time jobs and all that kind of stuff. So tonight it is the USMNT. They're at Geodis, and so for pretty much the first 45 minutes of the show this morning, we're going to talk to the two folks who are going to be calling it for Westwood. One, Jamie Watson coming up at the bottom of the hour. And we'll talk some Major League Soccer with Jamie because Jamie was kind of busy on the 1/3 weekend, not a half weekend, but the 1/3 with the 5 matches. He was kind of busy. But to bat leadoff is a guy who actually has to go to work. And so we're going to bring in Lucas Panzica, who's going to be calling the match for Westwood 1. Welcome back, my friend. Congratulations. I know that Study Hall has been kind of a bear, but in a fun way for you this week.
Yeah, no doubt, John. Appreciate you having me back, man. Always good to be here. They've kept it interesting. I'll give them that. This U.S. men's national team has made it to where the discussion around them is a fascinating one, to say the least, this summer. Not your typical anticipation / build up to a World Cup with all the good vibes kind of boosting everything. It's not quite been the case, but a lot of guys with a lot to kind of prove tonight. So looking forward to that.
Where did you just sit in a room all by yourself? Were you and Jamie sitting together in a room watching the matchup against Turkey on the weekend? How was Study Hall getting ready for this one?
We were not together. He was on the other side of the country getting ready for an Apple TV broadcast, but we were definitely communicating throughout the course of the game. Yeah, I mean, look, interesting start where you feel good about kind of the foundation they built in that game. Obviously, Jack McGlynn seems like he's kind of staking his claim, and then things fall apart a little bit. And the thing that I'm really interested in tonight, John, is the lack of Tyler Adams, who came in and kind of calmed things down in midfield after halftime. They don't have that option tonight. So you kind of get Johnny Cardoso, Luca De La Torre, whoever ends up getting rolled out there in that double pivot, thrown into the fire without that safety net, so to speak. So some good and some bad, but I don't know. I was a little bit surprised at how upbeat and positive Mauricio Pochettino was after that game, but I think it just kind of tells you that they're starting at the ground level with these guys, right? I mean, they're looking for effort, for spirit, for belief, and that's just the first step. And then it feels like now Pochettino can be like, okay, now let's go try to win some games and try to put together some performances.
Well, and I think that when you look at these windows leading into the Gold Cup, it's trying to figure out dudes 12 through 26 or 28, not necessarily 1 through 11, because you have the internal belief that some of your big guns will be back for Gold Cup. So right now for these two matches, it's trying to figure out everybody else.
100%. Think about it. Of the guys that aren't with them, various reasons. We don't need to get into the Pulisic stuff and then the Club World Cup guys. There's injuries. Serginho Dest comes to camp, and then they're going to kind of put him to the side a little bit. Now Tyler Adams is out tonight. So for the game tonight, you're talking about eight out of your potential starting 11 for the World Cup that are not with this team tonight. Whether or not you want to put Gio Reyna in the starting 11 could be up for debate, but you get what I'm saying. So, yeah, it's just opportunity abound tonight, where Chris Richards is really the only guy that will be playing tonight. And I don't know if he's in the starting 11 quite yet, but if he is, the only guy that I can sit there and say, okay, he's got a spot probably in the starting lineup for next year. Nobody else you can say that about with any degree of certainty. So, there's on one hand, you'd love to see this team with its stars kind of trying to, you want those guys to be the ones pulling them out of this funk. But on the other hand, it's kind of exciting to see these guys that are desperate to be there and are going to fight, scratch, and claw for a spot.
Well, and Pochettino says, I'm the first person with my coaching staff who likes players to have free time to be able to spend time with their families. What I've always said is that when you've done your work, when you're off your responsibilities, then yes, you can do whatever you want. Of course we can do it. But then I want 11 lions or wolves or whatever animal you like best is the most aggressive to fight on the field. This isn't a closed system. It's not the Navy. It's not a military camp. So that was interesting from Poch. But, yeah, I get where he's coming from.
Yeah, like I said, man, a lot of times when you listen to Poch talk, it's like hearing a message from a high school coach to his players. Like what that answer right there. Like, okay, no, you got to get your work done. Then you get to go have fun. I mean, it's literally like listening to your parents. Like, no, you got to do your homework before you can go hang out with your friends. So they're taking this thing down to the studs and building it back up from a mentality standpoint. I mean, from the very bare bones, that's kind of where they're at right now. And I wish we had sort of a truth serum moment with Mauricio Pochettino to kind of get his real feelings on maybe what he thought about this group when he took over and what he thinks about this group now, this first team group that obviously was not inspiring during Nations League. But I do think he's enjoying being around these guys. I think he was very upbeat yesterday, positive, smiling, cracking jokes in the press conference room. I think he is having a good time with these guys as they all have come in with kind of this mentality that he's been asking of everybody in the national team pool. And, these guys come in with that mentality because they simply have to, right? They have no other choice. That's their only path to this roster is, to beat out the guy next to you while simultaneously trying to work with the guy next to you to, build a competitive team this summer that can build some momentum. It's just this funny thing that the group that's tasked with building the momentum into the World Cup are a bunch of guys that might not be on the roster.
You look at what it's going to be tonight. Who specifically are you looking forward to seeing the most try to stake a claim, whether it's in this camp or Gold Cup or beyond? Or do you have folks you want to sit there and say, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this dude because I want to see how he responds? Yeah, I'm looking forward to this dude. Who's in your spot shadow tonight?
So in terms of seeing how he responds, I'd have to say Johnny Cardoso from that mistake in the first game, getting subbed off at halftime. I mean, I don't know if there was another player, John, with more positive momentum around him going into this camp with the season he had with Real Betis, this move that seems like it's about to happen to Atletico Madrid, just a massive move, biggest move of the summer for any American player. And then once again, that didn't translate to the national team. So if he's out there tonight, that's absolutely one near the top of the list. And Alex Freeman, too, who kind of got thrown into the fire. He's being asked to do some different things under Poch, right? You can see him dropping back into this 3 center back system where he's that guy on the right side. He's having to come into midfield a little bit. Not exactly the same as what we see in Orlando, where he's just up and down that right flank. So, I'm curious to see if he can adapt a little bit. And selfishly, too, it's my first time seeing Alex Freeman in person. I don't think anybody's had a bigger 6 months in terms of bursting onto the scene than the 20-year-old of Orlando. So those are 2 guys that are kind of at or near the top of the list. But I could literally sit here and name every player on this roster is the thing, right? Like if Matt Turner starts tonight, okay, what are you going to do to show us that you can still be this team's number 1, right? I mean, if it's Diego Luna, probably it feels like he is optimism personified with this group that struggled in the early part of the year. Okay, can you carry that momentum? Jack McGlynn has clearly worked his way into a favorable spot with Pochettino. Can he continue that? And then whoever starts up top at that number 9 spot, that is very clearly up for grabs, especially with this group that's currently here. So we could go on and on, but I'll roll with Cardoso and Freeman for the sake of time here.
We got you for another couple of minutes. I do want to get a Nashville question in before you go in about 5. Big Pat, I know that he is someone that a lot of folks have been looking at. It's like I know that Josh Sargent is getting a lot of shaking heads from left to right when it comes to activity up top. I know that there's a lot of folks that want to sit there and look at Patrick Adjumong and sit there and go, you could be this generation's version of Josie Altidore. I'm not going to sit there and say you could be the next Josie Altidore because skill set's a little different, age is a little different, and what Big Pat brings to the table is a little different. In the matchup against Turkey on the weekend, it's like, Patrick Adjumong had a decent start, but then they kind of figured out, okay, let's bracket him, let's grab the jersey, let's frustrate him. And then, Patrick Adjumong had a bit of a long day. I'm looking at seeing how he responds on a night in Nashville because there are folks that are looking at that second striker, not the one playing behind, but in the depth chart as to who can be that second striker. Is it going to be a guy like Patrick Adjumong?
Yeah, great question. And Poch was complimentary of him after the game. And it does feel like he's trying to be positive and uplifting of all these guys at the moment, but just complimentary of sort of his mentality going up against that center back pairing that Turkey has that has played some high level football in Europe. Well, that kind of goes up to another level, right? When you're going up against the likes of Manuel Akanji or Aurelia Menda with the Swiss national team, not to mention Ricardo Rodriguez there at left back. Maybe they roll out three in the back with him dropping in as that left center back. I'm not positive, but that kind of goes up a level for Ajiman, that difficulty level in terms of who he's facing. So you just see such a raw player, right? A little bit rugged in some ways. It might be a heavy touch here or there, but you're right, man. The physical tools are all there in abundance. And that's a guy that if you can just kind of get out some of that untapped potential, maybe rein him in a little bit, that he could be an answer for you up top. That's a spot that's obviously plagued the U.S. national team. But at the same time, like Brian White's knocking on the door, and I think he came in and did some good things against Turkey. If he gets the start tonight, we'll see if he can kind of carry that club form over to the national team as just an absolute workhorse, a guy that's not afraid to get in the mix. So, yeah, I mean, that's a spot that is as wide open as any, I would say.
Jamie Watson coming up in about 15 minutes to break it all down. All right, so let's go between the sticks. You had Matt Freese, had a couple of saves, and then he had to kind of be on the hop after turnovers, and ball ends up in the back of the net. Matt Freese was starting in match number 1. You mentioned Matt Turner. My first question for Matt Turner would be, hey, is the check going to clear from Lyon?
Yeah.
For Nottingham Forest? When you look at the keeper situation with this particular group of individuals, what sticks in your mind about this group?
Yeah, I mean, can Matt Turner fight off some of these guys? I was slightly surprised that Matt Freese got the start against Turkey. I know that kind of showed us that Poch wasn't lying when he said, listen, I mean, the door is open for somebody to come in and take this spot. Matt Turner needs to go somewhere where he's going to play. It's as simple as that. If he's on the bench for Lyon or whoever next summer, he's not going to be this team's number 1 keeper. I think we've seen enough to feel like that's going to be the case. And then there's even less competition now with Zach Steffen having to go back to camp, which, you're gutted for him. It felt like such a huge opportunity to kind of reclaim that spot a little bit. So, yeah, right now, John, I'd say just due to lack of better options, Matt Turner is probably this team's number 1, which is a crazy thing to say. Like Jamie and I were talking the other day, and we're just talking about this goalkeeper pool. I mean, it's got to be the lowest point at that position for the national team, certainly in my lifetime. I mean, in decades, right? When you think about not that long ago that Tim Howard was your 1 and prime Brad Guzan was your 2. Someone that you guys know pretty well down in Atlanta. Yeah. It's just crazy to wrap your head around. And then now your number 1, theoretically, is a guy that can't get minutes in the FA Cup as Crystal Palace's number 2 keeper. So, it's a huge question mark right now. Matt Freese was solid. Neither of the goals you could really attribute to him. He's obviously emerged in MLS over the last couple of years. But I do think if Matt Turner can get back to getting minutes, at a high level in League One, if that's where he's going to be with Lyon, then the path will be right there. It'll open up for him to take back this spot. But again, it might just be due to lack of better options. And I think Poch is kind of mining for that right now to figure out what he can get out of the likes of Matt Freese, who we'll see who they roll out there tonight.
Yeah, Lucas Panzica, Jamie Watson, Westwood 1. They're calling the match tonight on your favorite Westwood 1 affiliate. Nashville question before you go. Right now at the halfway point, 29 points, 5 back of Philly, 17 matches played. When you look at what you've seen out of Nashville to the halfway point of the season, what sticks in your head?
Well, I mean, bitter kind of end to the first half with giving up a 2-0 lead against NYCFC, get a home draw in a game that, if you get all 3 points, the momentum just carries you into that break. But with that said, if you told any Nashville fan, John, any Nashville media member, whatever, hey, top 4 in the East after the first 17 games of the year, you're taking that 100%. Where do I sign? This team has been fun to watch. BJ Callahan, to his credit, has done a lot of the things he said he would, man. They've played this proactive, high-pressing style. Everyone attacks, everyone defends. Like some of the cliches he's rolled out there have kind of held true. And he said, we're going to play young players. They haven't been afraid to play young players. And some of those guys have excelled. I mean, Matt Corcoran, a 19-year-old, U20 U.S. men's national team player, was just incredible in midfield against NYCFC. Just bossed midfield for 64 minutes, however long he played. So vibes are pretty good right now in Nashville, I got to say. Now, the question is, can they sustain, right? If they can find that more consistent tertiary scoring option behind Mukhtar and Suraj, which obviously has been a discussion point here for a while, then that feels like the thing that could really put them into that contending conversation. Looked like it might be Ahmed Kassem early on, at a couple goals in his first couple starts. He's cooled off a little bit, so we'll see if they can manufacture that here in the back half of the season. But No, look, right now, I think Nashville is way ahead of, I imagine, where most people would have expected they would be at the halfway point.
104.5 The Zones, Lucas Panzica. Sir, I believe you have to go to work. You turn into a pumpkin on this show, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I always enjoy coming on here and just delaying the constant, how many reps is Cam Ward going to get at minicamp talk that's going to dominate the next 3 days. So believe me, this is a nice respite, John, from the usual June discourse of an NFL franchise. I'm just glad to be doing a real life football game tonight at Geodis Park.
No doubt. Oh, sorry, I fibbed. What do you think the vibe's going to be like tonight?
Oh, I'm fascinated. I truly have no idea. I don't know what the fan turnout is going to be like. They've been promoting it very heavily, but obviously that lack of star power is interesting. You know, my algorithm when I'm swiping on Instagram over the last few weeks and the ad for this game pops up has been Christian Pulisic, right? Just front and center, the Coca-Cola send-off match.
Ooh.
And the last couple of weeks, it's turned into Walker Zimmerman because he's playing in his home stadium, right? So that's kind of from a promotional standpoint, it's brought some challenges, I'm sure. So I wish I had a better answer. I'm going to be as interested as anybody to walk into that stadium and to just kind of scan the crowd at 7:07 p.m. to see what it looks like at kickoff. You know, I think it'll be a decent turnout. I don't think it'll be a sellout crowd by any means. And Switzerland is a quality opponent. I'd say a higher quality opponent than what they saw in Turkey. So that difficulty level goes up a little bit, and we'll see what that support system looks like if it's anything close to what Nashville gets on any given Saturday.
No doubt about it. All right, as always, my friend, thank you very much. Do you need a note to your boss about being late for work from
we'll be all right. We'll be all right, John. Appreciate you, man.
All right, have a good call. There goes Lucas. And so Jamie's going to come in about 10 minutes, and he'll break it all down for us from his perspective. I do have some MLS-y kind of questions for Jamie coming up. But, yeah, Lucas and Jamie are going to be on the call tonight for Westwood 1, and it will be intriguing on a bunch of different fronts. And that was why I wanted to bring in Lucas and Jamie to find out what their perspectives are when it comes to this particular matchup with the Swiss. We know that Bart Keeler from the Soccer for US POD is on his way up there. At least he was yesterday. And I think he's working remotely today while he's up there in Central Tennessee to get ready for that matchup tonight. So 7:07 Central, 8:07 kick on TNT Max and all of the other channels and all that kind of stuff. So we'll go over what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it today coming up in just a little bit.
Callahan.
Sir.
Yeah, so that was kind of what we got into a little bit with Nashville. So we'll find out what the word is there with everything going on. And kind of, I wanted to kind of talk to Lucas about some things, especially a couple of the position groups. Obviously, with Jamie, the same thing. But I do want to get into some of Major League Soccer with Jamie, considering that Jamie was with Josh Eastern calling the leadoff match on the 1/3 schedule this past weekend. So I do have some MLS-y and stuff that I do want to catch up with Jamie about here. And that'll lead us into the discussion about what happened last weekend and the vote getting, and that's where we'll go from there. We do have some news in and around the leagues in and of itself. You've got transfer news. You've got all the things going on. And we'll get into that as the show evolves this morning. We'll get you ready for anything and everything going on with the sport here on Soccer's Morning Show. So, John, here you there once again. Thanks for dropping by. Let's kind of keep an eye. Let's see who's joining us early out of the blocks this morning. It is Jordan. Good morning. And Jordan's going to go, and I'm probably going to grab mine on Thursday. So Jordan's going to go grab his credential and his fit. So we'll see what's going on. Morning 4 card, Derek with the conversation. Matt Turner ain't it. Pars, could this be because MLS signs top talent for attack and keeper, therefore the attackers and international goalies are not as developed? Pars, we'll ask Jamie Watson that question coming up in a bit. Morning Ropes, back to Max. You think it's back to Max Ropes? Okay, so among all of the 19 different simulcasters that are going on with all of the activities. So what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. So Azerbaijan and Hungary are on at noon on FS2. World Cup 2026 qualifying. Netherlands and Malta is at 2:45. TNT has the friendly. Let's see who'll simulcast it. Fox Deportes has the Maurice Reveo tournament going on at 11:30. Mexico and Congo in the U20s. World Cup qualifying. It is CONCACAF day for them. Cuba, Bermuda at 4. Jamaica, Guatemala at 7. Costa Rica, Trinidad, and Tobago at 9 o'clock. So we'll keep an eye on Jay Fortune kicking off at 9. Telemundo has Argentina and Colombia in the second leg of this particular window. Telemundo, Argentina, Colombia at 8. Universo has Brazil and Paraguay at 8:45. Univision has Mexico and Turkey at 8:30. beIN Sports Connect has got a lot of folks in their qualifying. Some of it has already ended. Some of it will be going on starting in about 20 minutes. Kyrgyzstan, UAE, Uzbekistan, Qatar. Noon, Iran and the Korea DPR. 2:15, Palestine, Oman, Jordan, and Iraq. Saudi Arabia and Australia. You can get your beINs. You can get all your beINs in one place. Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. You can get all your beINs. You can get all of the CDO, Nuestra Teles, For the Fans, Goal TV, and our buddy Nino Torres, Liga 1 Max Pro, Teise. I think you can get Tigo Sports. I know you can get Canal 4 because they simulcast on beIN when it comes to Central America. Morningdale. Fox Soccer Plus, Serbia and Andorra. I should have worn my Andorra jersey. I didn't know that they were on Fox Soccer Plus at 2:45. World Cup qualifying 9 o'clock tonight. El Salvador and Suriname, Honduras and Antigua and Barbuda at 10 o'clock. Peacock simulcasting the friendly with the U.S. and Switzerland. So it is a combination of Peacock and TNT tonight. World Cup qualifying on the YouTubes, on CONCACAF's YouTube channel. St. Kitts and Nevis, Grenada's at 3. Haiti, Curacao, St. Lucia, Barbados at 6. Dominican Republic, Dominica. Get those two sorted. That's at 7 o'clock. Guyana, Montserrat at 8. Panama, Nicaragua at 8. El Salvador, Suriname at 9. Puerto Rico, St. Vincent's and the Grenadines at 9. Honduras and Antigua and Barbuda at 10 o'clock. On the women's side, the Canadian Northern Super League is at 6 on the plus. Halifax and Ottawa. Yikes. That's a lot. That's a good qualifying day for you. So get multiple devices going, and you can kind of keep track of anything and everything going on in and around the planet. Also, before Jamie Watson joins us in a couple of minutes here, here's all the other things you can do. It appears that our friends at the Marshall Islands are getting an award for their environmental approach to the game from our friends at Real Betis. Lloyd Hours, technical director, is on his way there. Follow him on social media, and you can see that. Literally, dudes hopping on a plane going from England to Portugal to get an award from Real Betis. So you can get all of your Marshall Islands gear from England, except for the scarf, which you get from me. It's on the other side of this wall. So buy the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation gear. Remember, mid-August is the Outrigger Challenge Cup, where they're going to be in Springdale, Arkansas for their first ever organized tournament. So go if you're anywhere close. But once again, you can get all the gear from their store, except for the scarf that Maddie Cruz is modeling. You get that from me. Grady Baby Co. You can get the Soccer is Just Better in Atlanta gear. It is the gold embossed. It is either on the red or the black, the sweatshirt or the T-shirt. Soccer is Just Better in Atlanta. You can get that from our friends at Grady Baby Co. SDH Network on one cuff, the Grady Baby logo on the other cuff. Proceeds from that helping out Atlanta Public Schools middle school soccer programs here in 2025 as a part of our Soccer for Good campaign. Also, Olive in York, you can get your first ever SDH jersey, Kaiser Permanente, across the front. We can't thank them enough for being fantastic sponsors for us all season long, all year long. And what you can do when you personalize the Navy jersey with the floppy collar, very, very 80s look, is you can either determine that you want it in like the double blue, so like the Carolina blue or the Columbia blue or the double blue, to go with the Navy jersey. It's a lighter shade, or you can go white. Please consult Abby or Alex to figure out which version you think you would want. So once again, Olive in York, and that helps out our Soccer for Good campaign here in 2025. Beyond Goals Mentoring and our friend Greg Garza modeling blue steel when he was asked to model it for our Instagram accounts along with Sophia and Maddie. Beyond Goals Mentoring on one sleeve, Soccer for Good on the other sleeve. Kaiser Permanente across the front for your Olive in York jersey for the SDHers here in 2025. Once again, proceeds help out our Soccer for Good campaign coming up here in 2025. Also, once again, we mentioned Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. You can get all the beINs, watch all the qualifying when you have it, get all the other networks that are there, and you can also become a Fanatico for $10 a year. What is a Fanatico, by the way? You can be a part of our chain on the Chant app, and what you can do, as I look up the Chant app quickly here, what you can do is be a part of everything here on the Chant app and get notes from Adam Schefter when you get bolos. But once again, Chant app, group.chant.fan/soccer down here /join right there. Oh, Crumbling Distributorship D. Thank you, Dell, for reporting and beating me to it. Crumbling Distributorship D. Account suspended or deactivated. Man, that's wasting no time. No time. Wasting in making sure that Crumbling Distributorship D got reported. And now it has been deactivated, reported, and yes, absolutely, got him. Suspended or deactivated. So you guys waste absolutely no time, and that's a good thing. Speaking of wasting no time, it is the bottom of the hour, which means one thing, that he is studying just as much as well. And it's time to catch up with our buddy Jamie Watson. And he's out on the lanai. Look at you.
Good morning, John. How are you, brother?
You tell me. You're the one who's got study hall going on, and you got flora and fauna behind you getting ready for a match tonight on Westwood 1. How's study hall been?
Everything's been great, man. Everything's been really good. Looking forward to it. I am out here because I'm a father of 3, and there is no telling at any moment when one of those 3 could decide to pop in and crash the show.
But that's a bad thing?
Hey, look, no, it's the best thing in the world being a dad. But on game day, when you need to talk to your friends, you know what I mean? You got to go outside and be able to make sure that they don't pop in and join in on the show, you know?
That's fantastic. He's gone outside to avoid a studio audience at home completely. We had Lucas on before Lucas went in to go and function at 104.5. And there were a couple of position groups that I asked him about. And let me go back and find out I know that you were kind of busy with you and Josh and looking at the 1/3 schedule in Major League Soccer. But when you went back and analyzed what happened with the USMNT Turkey, what stuck out in your mind?
Yeah, so you made a good point. I was unable to be with Lucas. By the way, I was watching. He's so great. You guys, that was such an entertaining start to the morning watching you guys break things down and from his perspective and everything. And I'm so excited for Lucas tonight. He's going to do a wonderful job on Westwood 1 Sports. Yeah, so I was with Josh Easton. We were getting ready for an MLS game. We had an exciting DC United Chicago game that went 7-1. Chicago,
we're going to talk about that in a bit, bro.
As we all anticipated. But yeah, as I'm doing the build up to it and the sort of the last bit of getting ready for that MLS match, I'm also watching the US. So I'm doing prep for one game while getting ready for another. And my big takeaway from the US game was it was twofold. I'm happy with the fact that this team fought and competed without it being our best 11 available. But at the same time, man, it just didn't really seem like we were at any true point just dominating, putting fear in Turkey, making them feel as though we're really on the back foot and we're up against it and we got to survive these next couple of 5-10 minutes. And I don't know. I just want a little bit more killer instinct in the final third. I want more runs in behind. I want more excitement. And I think listening to the press conference yesterday at the training facility for Nashville SC, Mauricio Pochettino kind of said the same thing. He wanted a little bit more dynamic movement in behind and great ball winning players in the midfield, great playmaking players in the midfield. But we still need to be more dangerous behind, don't we, John?
And obviously you look at that in the first 90 seconds and you're going, ooh, Jack McGlynn, from 20.
Oh, what a goal.
And he hit that sinker with the left and it goes into the net and you're sitting there thinking, okay, yeah, things are rolling right now. But then you get and I want to talk to you about quicksand. You get the moment from Johnny with the pass and it turns from 1-0 to 1-1. Then you end up with, another moment and it ends up 2-1. You're having to fight uphill for the rest of the match. When you are in a situation, and I feel like I'm resurrecting one of my favorite quarterbacks and one of my favorite coaches, Jimmy McGinty and Shane Falco, from the replacement.
The replacements, great reference.
Yeah, well, but there was the one speech early on in the movement where they're the replacement players and they have the team meeting after the loss and they're talking about quicksand. And Shane has the fear of quicksand where you make a mistake. Then it's another and another and another. And you're trying to get out of that idea of quicksand. And it seems like there are times with the men's national team that they get stuck in the quicksand and they can't find their way out of it. Am I wrong?
I think that's something that will maybe be something we're looking for because it's happened to the U.S. men's national team several times over. And I think you start to see what you want to look for sometimes in soccer, right? If I use an example, if a coach wants to like a player and the player passes out.
Oops. I'm guessing that someone tried to call Jamie. And Jamie, you see, this is what happens when people try to call Jamie because he's such a busy man.
Hey, I am so sorry, man. I don't, maybe my kids that I weren't allowing out here, maybe they just turned the internet off on us.
Well, I figured somebody was trying to call you and they butted in and they didn't want you to talk about quicksand.
No, I'm so sorry, man. So here's where we pick up on that. Apologies for your listeners and your viewers here that had to put up with my bad internet here. I think that's the reminder to pay the bill today. I think when you want to look for some things and some trends, you're going to find things that sort of back it up, right? And I use this as a player. If the coach wants to like the player and the player is at practice and he passes the ball out of bounds, good idea, right? You'll get the next one. Yeah. If a player doesn't want to like a coach, or if a coach doesn't want to like a player and you pass out of bounds, come on, you gotta connect that pass. No excuse to miss that pass. Yeah. The reason I say that is I think with the U.S. men's national team, we've had too many moments in games where mistakes happen and they're compounded by another mistake. And we've been burned by that as sort of fans and supporters of the U.S. men's national team. And it seems to be a negative trend that happens with this team. So I don't think it happened a lot during that Turkey game. But the bad thing is it happened quickly. And those two mistakes ultimately end up being the difference at the international level. I feel like we're looking for those moments and wanting that to be the narrative at times because it's been something that has burned us. I thought this team responded well after those two mistakes, but it goes to show you how fine the margins are. Those two mistakes ended up being the difference. And if you're in a tournament, like in a year's time, the FIFA Men's World Cup, and you make those two mistakes, all this buildup, all this hype, everything about it is gone like that in minutes.
Yeah.
So, one hand, I'm not happy that it happened because it cost the game on Saturday. Yeah. But on the other hand, I'm happy that it's happening now for these players to learn from this and hopefully put it in the back pocket to go, you can't have that mistake happen, or that's the difference of this being all done before you even realize what the hell is going on.
7 first-timers were chasing after a first cap in these two matches, getting ready for these two before you get into Gold Cup. 2 position groups I want to talk about specifically, keeper and forward. Keeper, you had Matt Freese out of the blocks, and we don't know what it's going to look like between the sticks tonight. As I told Lucas, I said my first question for Matt is to make sure that the check clears from Lyon if he's going to Nottingham Forest. When you look at the keeper situation right now for the men's national team, there are talented MLS keepers getting playing time, and then you have Matt Turner who comes in, and he's not getting playing time but has to be a part of the discussion. Where is your thought process on the keeper situation right now?
First of all, this is a move that Matt Turner has to make, whether it's to Lyon, anywhere. He has to go to a place where he's going to play. Because the same thing that happened to him before the last World Cup that got him to be the starter was he was the informed keeper within the last year that at the last moment snuck in. Is Matt Freese that goalkeeper this year, this go around? Who knows? Is it another goalkeeper yet that is going to break through that we haven't gotten to see in camp yet? Who knows? I think that it's the most uncertain time that the U.S. men's national team has had as a goalkeeper in decades. Oh. I don't think that we know today who our number one solidified starter is. Now, that can change a year out, and it will change within the next year. But it's not as certain as what it's been in years past and decades past. That's concerning, right? So I think that there is an opportunity for the door to be open, and you have to be playing over this next year. Whatever level it is, Turner has to be there. And, John, I apologize. You asked me the second position group. I know we were talking about the goalkeepers here. I got so focused in on that, I forgot about the other part because I feel so passionate about it. It's a concern, and it's something that we've never had. I said never. It's been that long, right? It's felt like a lifetime since we've had to really worry about the U.S. men's national team goalkeeper, but here we are. We are worried about it, and I don't know the answer of who's going to be playing 12 months from now in the World Cup.
So then let's go all the way up front and look at Big Pat and what we saw from the forward group. And obviously with Patrick Adjumong, there's someone there that looks like a rush end that somebody could that Josh Heupel could use, on a Saturday afternoon in Knoxville.
Great reference.
Well, I mean, you're in Central Tennessee. I couldn't quite. It's like Clark Lee needs help with rush end at Vandy. But you look at someone who is as unique a skill set and unique a physical presence as Big Pat is. And I'm not saying that tomorrow that Patrick Adjumong is going to be your number one starter at the point of the spear, blah, 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 take your cliche and move it forward. I'm looking at those other folks that can fill in those spaces because Josh Sargent ain't it. And you're trying to figure out who could be it when you need him to. Patrick Adjumong against Turkey, it looked like the second they figured out, okay, let's bracket him, you got him to shut down, and he wasn't effective. When you're looking at the other dudes that could be there to help out at striker, when you look at the front line, what are you staring at there?
By the way, I love your versatility here. You throw a good Tennessee reference in. You're one of the voices of soccer in Atlanta. You're having to talk to a guy in Nashville about a guy that plays in Charlotte. I hope we don't lose your Atlanta United supporters that are faithful to you right now for all the cross-state reference you're having to do here. But it is soccer down here.
We are, no, Jamie, come on now.
Including everybody here, right? The door's open at the number 9 position, and it for me. The number 9 position is the one position that I think you can capitalize the most on form, because a forward that's in striker form now, where he's scoring goals, where the goal seems like it's 50 yards wide, 12 months before World Cup, is all well and good. But give me a forward that's in form where the goal feels like it's 50 yards wide, 12 weeks before the World Cup. Yeah. And Adjumong has all of the tools. I've seen him play several times, been in the same stadium with him several times. But yesterday was the first day that I was close to him. That guy is a specimen. I mean, he is a huge human being. So for him to be as agile, have the feet that he does, the soccer IQ to go with that size, all the intangibles are there for Adjumong to be the prototypical number 9 that can stretch the field, hold the ball up, do everything you want as a coach. But he's got to find that form in front of goal that he hasn't consistently found yet. He's more Fulton Reed, Mighty Ducks, right? 1 out of 5. You got to give him 5 opportunities, and he's going to score. And when he does score, it's going to be a banger, and it's going to be a big one. And is it Florian Balogun, who's not here? Another one of those players that Lucas referenced a few moments ago when you were talking as one of the potential 7, upwards of 8 starters that's not in this camp. All I know is that position will solidify itself maybe last of all the positions, just because you need a forward that's in form. And, look at Brian White. Was he in the conversation? No, he was quietly doing it for a long time. And maybe that guy had the longest road of consistently having to do it. I look for him. I don't know if he's going to start tonight, but I look for him to be a player that can really take these next 12 months. And if he can continue to put those deposits in his bank account, his proverbial Pochettino bank account, over the course of the next year with consistently scoring goals, 12 weeks from the start of the 2026 World Cup, if he's still doing it, he may be a guy that sneaks into the roster, and I hope when we have this conversation 12 weeks instead of 12 months before the FIFA Men's World Cup, we have a lot more clarity on the goalkeeping position we just spoke about, and most certainly the goal scoring, because you need both of those if you're going to do anything in a World Cup.
Yeah, Jamie Watson hanging out with us, making the call tonight on Westwood 1. He's with Apple TV. It's like, what day of the week is it? Which calendars are referencing? But tonight we're talking about Pochettino savings and loan and who can be who can get the deposits and the CDs all locked down tonight as they're going to take on the Swiss at Geodis. Who else are you looking forward to seeing make those next strides tonight? Yes, I know it's a friendly, all those kinds of things as you get closer to Gold Cup, but who else is in your spot shadow tonight?
It'll be interesting. I mean, I think Alex Freeman got an opportunity at right back, and I thought he did well. Listen to Pochettino afterwards. Pochettino was very muted about it. I think he should be, because we're talking about a 20-year-old but everything leading up to it there was a lot of questions from the media about Alex Freeman. I think if he gets another opportunity at right back, don't know if he will. I could see there being a rotation in there, but we'll see. If he does, that could be another player that if he gets a second opportunity to continue to impress, it'll be interesting because right now, what I look at this camp, I think the door's open, and specifically, I'll give you a name or two in just a moment, but I think specifically with this group, you've heard the word opportunity a lot leading into this camp. You said this really astutely, I thought, a little bit ago when you were talking to Lucas. You said, we feel confident that we have an idea of who the 1 to 11 are today, but this camp is more about 12 to 23, right? That's what you were kind of picking up what you're putting down when you were talking about that earlier. That's sort of the gist of the argument. And I agree with that. I think the players that aren't there, they are the players that we feel confident should be there in 12 months' time. But they've made a mistake, I think, the ones that have chosen to not be there, because you've left the door open for other players. This is the national team we're talking about. This isn't participation awards. This isn't about, hey, I want to make sure my friend gets an opportunity. We can be friends the other 22 and a half hours of the day. For these 90 minutes, this is my team. This is my position. I want to be the one that's starting. And when I look at this opportunity for other players that are getting, I think it's a mistake to let the door open for somebody else to slide their foot in the door and to try to get in there and to try to change the perception for Pochettino when you get some FaceTime with him at some camps and everything like that. So who are some players I think that can really, stand out? I look at guys like, could Quinn Sullivan tonight, could he be a player that I'm not sure he would have been in the camp if everybody would have said yes to the call-up. And some players that didn't take the call-up had some reasons for it, and we don't know the full story for everybody. Alluding to Pulisic here, we don't know the full story, so I think it'd be presumptuous to assume we know why he's not there, because we don't. Anybody that says they do, they better know, because that's a bold shout.
Yeah.
But does Quinn Sullivan come in and show really well? Does Sebastian Berhalter get a start? And he capitalize on this fine form that he's had in CONCACAF Champions Cup and in Major League Soccer play with Vancouver Whitecaps. Those two players right now, I look at, they probably fit into the roster because of the opportunities. Now, if in 12 months' time, one of the players in the midfield that you thought, would be in if the World Cup started today is out and one of those two players is in, is it because of this opportunity in which the Gold Cup and these two friendlies eluded itself and afforded itself? Maybe. Time will tell with that one. But I think those guys are two that could really show that maybe there's something there, and this opportunity now is there because other people said no. They got the chance. And is this going to be something that history tells us, oh, man, what if everybody would have said yes to the 2025 Gold Cup and we would have been able to put together a full roster? But because we didn't, the opportunity presented itself, and now other players are in for the World Cup that changes everything for your life.
Yeah, well, keep an eye on that tonight. You and Lucas will have the call on Westwood 1. Before you go and attend to the rest of the studio audience and your morning caffeine, I know that you're going to catch up with Poch also later this afternoon. What the hell is going on in D.C.?
Man, so we referenced the 7-1 result that Chicago had at full strength.
I'm like, what? What the hell?
I said full strength. I meant 11-on-11. DC United was not full strength.
Yeah.
They weren't even a full game day roster. I had this conversation with somebody yesterday while at training, and we were waiting for this massive storm that blew through that canceled practice for the U.S. men's national team. And it was somebody that would know the people connected there. And, we were having this conversation. It's like, look, DC's roster just isn't good enough right now. If you were to take Troy Lesesne out of the equation, what is any other coach going to do with the group that they have? I hate to say it. It's not for a lack of effort, because the team did put an effort out in the second half when they were down 4-0 and it was looking bleak. And by the way, the players aren't dumb. They're looking over at the bench going, there's not even enough bodies here. They couldn't even practice 11v11 leading up to the session and go through shadow play without, I'm assuming, an equipment manager or an assistant coach filling in for players, right? It was brutal. I don't love when games are played during the international window. I know there's reasons for it, and I'll just assume that they're good. But man, DC have to figure it out. And the one thing that when things are not going well, you got to look to, are the players still committed? I did still see that, John, in the matchup, but it's tough times for DC, and they've got to really use these windows. This window in particular, I think DC has to do something to give you hope if you're a fan and a supporter, because if not, then we're going into the second half of the season, and is it already a wash for 25 before we even get before it's officially summer? I don't know, man. It's tough for DC right now.
I mean, I looked at Luis Barraza, and I'm sitting there going, dude, I'll sue for malpractice.
Yeah.
That was.
But let's give Chicago credit and this new look under former U.S. men's national team coach Greg Berhalter, who I think is a far, far, far better club manager than national team manager. That's not to say he's not a good national team manager. It's the fact that Berhalter at times was getting players and trying to put square pegs into round holes because you don't get a chance to work with these players week in and week out and day out. He's now getting Chicago players day in and day out, getting circle pegs for circle holes to be able to put into place. And now they're starting to do what he wants to do with his group. And they looked so damn dangerous every time that they went forward. You felt like they were going to score every time, and they almost did. And we had a moment, John. It was way late in the post-game show, so I'm sure viewers had switched over to the next game on Season Pass here. But we put up one of those shot sheets that it shows where all the shots are from, and there was 21 shots, and then you put a G where the goal was, and there were 7 of them. And I think at one time I looked at Josh Eastern and I said, "There's more G's on that screen right now than there is in Greg Berhalter's first name." And
Wow.
got a belly laugh out of Josh Eastern on air. And,
Wow.
I'm sure Greg will take that every single day. He'll be fine with that one if it means there's at least a 4 spot being put up every week. But man, Chicago looked good, and the new $650 million privately funded stadium on the horizon, the $100 million training facility that they just put into a community, and this nestled into like 3 different neighborhoods where Joe Mansueto, I don't know if this was talked about enough, but he actually went into that community, and this is a complete side note to the conversation, but talking about Chicago here, he went into that Chicago neighborhood where they put the $100 million training facility and actually helped refurbish some of the neighborhoods around it, some of the affordable housing, put roughly, I think it was like over $8 million into like new roofs, new kitchens into those homes to help that area. And they brought jobs to that area and stuff like that. So with what Chicago's doing, MLS, I think this is one of the best stories off the field that hasn't probably gotten the full story in our soccer world, because I think Joe Mansueto just goes about being philanthropic and sort of this endeavor of making his community better quietly. I respect the hell out of it, so I'm going to talk about it as much as I can because I'll do it for him. I think it's incredible what Chicago's doing, and there's a lot of good owners that are doing a lot of good, apart from just what people who want to find the bad at it and say, oh, they're just rich people. No, he's giving back to his community, and I respect that out of Joe Mansueto.
Okay, since you've opened this door,
yeah, let's do it. Let's walk through it.
22,000 is too small, though. You got to be 30. You can't just be 22,000. Otherwise, you're like Austin or you're like the PayPal Park. It's too small. I think you're selling yourself short, and you're selling your soccer community short by having something that's only 22.
Well, I'll put it this way, though. Is 22,000 with the waiting list better than a 30,000 seat stadium that has 26,000 every week, 27,000, but you got 10% of the stadium's empty? You know what I mean? That creating that supply and demand, I think it might be what Chicago needs, because I think they're still winning back a fan base. I don't know if they can put 30,000 in week in and week out. I think it's just something that they've got to. It's tough, right? Because what if you do it? What if you build a 22,500, stadium for $650 million? It goes really well for 3 years, and you're going, man, do we leave money on the table? Should we have built it bigger? I don't know. That's, I would rather personally think that you could create this demand and this buzz, and at 22,500 every week feel like I have to be there and I have to buy my tickets, and I'm going to wait in a waiting list potentially for years to get there. And I'm going to value that because I've had to wait to get it, as opposed to, I know I can get a ticket the day of. I don't need to buy a season ticket. Somebody will sell me their ticket an hour before kickoff for pennies on the dollar. I think maybe that's more the thought process.
Okay, well then what I would do is I would have a conversation with him and sit there and go, okay, if you're going to be at 22, then I want to make sure that you can expand the building and make sure that the barn can be like what Merritt Paulson did in Portland, where you get to add another couple of thousand if you build straight up or whatever.
That's the move. That's the move. I think that's the happy medium, to say this is what we're going to set it at, but you also have in the back of your mind, in your back pocket, you can play that card to capitalize on that demand you can hopefully create. Because I think Minnesota United have found that out with Allianz Field. 19,000 plus in that one, just a shade under 20,000. And that stadium is amazing. It's incredible, but you can't expand on it. And so it's always going to be that. And so even if you had 19,000 on the waiting list, you can't get their money because there's only so many seats, right? So, man, it's a good problem to have, though. Look at what we're talking about in Major League Soccer, right? That is 22,500 enough seats for an MLS stadium. Man, that's a great problem to have. I love that for us.
Yeah, no doubt.
By the way, is Mercedes-Benz, we were asking, is that big enough for Atlanta United for several years, man? That's it's special. You guys are spoiled down there. You guys have a skewed scale in Atlanta.
Well, it's a double step because you can go 43, and that's where you are most of the time. But then when you bring in Messi and friends, you can expand it to 72 or whatever.
Insane, right?
It's really crazy to see what's going on. Okay, so if you had one question, and you put Mauricio Pochettino in the chair of truth, where literally it's like you get Wonder Woman's golden lasso and you put it around him and he has to answer the question. You get him there at practice today. You put the golden lasso around him and he has to answer one question. What is the question that you have to have the answer to from him today?
Wow. Okay. Then, I mean, if this is the one question he has to answer. I'm going to write a piece of paper down with 1 through 23, and I'm going to say, write down your 23 names that if the World Cup started tomorrow, you would go for right now if you had to answer that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because I would want to know who's in right now.
Yeah.
And then I would want to be able to work off of that for the next year to go, here's your list. You're in if you're one of the 23 players. Don't screw up a life-changing opportunity. And then if you're one of the players that realize you're not on that 23 list, you got 12 months to make him rewrite this list. I'm going to spin it back on you now, John. That's what I'm asking him.
All right.
You get the golden lasso around Pochettino.
Uh-huh.
What's the one question you're asking him that he has to answer?
Are you tired of putting a positive spin on things each and every single time out when there are mistakes that are made that drive you crazy?
I don't know if he's been in the job long enough to lose that optimism yet. I think he probably is having to do that more than he ever has anywhere else, because you can be a bit more honest with your club teams, because you do get to affect it a bit more. You do get to pick the players. You can be a bit more ruthless with your public comments, because if you are upset about something, you have the ability to control it. The national team, you kind of get the cards you are dealt, and your ceiling can only be as high as what your country has to offer while you're coaching, right? I'm not saying what we have to offer in our ceiling is as high as it will be at the next World Cup, because we have 4 more years or 5 more years before that starts, before we can raise that ceiling with development and new players coming through and all the things. But I mean, you have to be positive because you can only play the cards that you're dealt. And so you've got to be able to figure out if this is what is available to me. And if you're pessimistic, then you're in the wrong job.
I'm not saying he's pessimistic, but I would think that fundamental mistakes would drive him crazy.
I do agree with you. By the way, your principle of what you're saying, I agree with you, because I am tired of the fact that we are taking moral victories and silver linings after these matches. Like,
you're ranked 16 in the world for a reason.
Yes. So act like the team that's 16th in the world and be upset when you lose at home, right? Instead of saying, we're we did see positives. Okay, yeah, I would rather a glass half full than a glass half empty and the sky is always falling after everything. Like, let's try to build on the good and all that stuff. That is important to a group that needs to build, because we're not at the end of the finish line now. We don't need to have that kick for the last proverbial 100 meters right now, because we still have a lap to go in the race. But you're right, man. Like, let's get to a point where teams are scared of us and we don't have to take more victories. They take moral victories. Yeah, we lost, but man, we put a good performance against the United States. Maybe that's what Pochettino was talking about when in the press conference. He said yesterday that he wants 11 lions, 11 lobos, 11 dangerous animals, right? Whatever you want to use.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that those animals, when they're done with the hunt, they go back and go, I almost got the hunt. I almost got the prey.
Yeah.
No, they get it. And they say, yeah, like, I got it because that's what I do. Like, you're the 16th team in the world. That means that you should be in the top half of this, World Cup. And that means you should be out of your group. And it means that you should be one of the teams that has a chance to win it. Realistically, I don't want to get crazy here and say that, but you know what I mean? Like, you should feel that way.
Yeah.
If you're in that camp and you are who you say you are as a top 16 team in the world, then you should be a team that is at a minimum out of the group stage, which gets you a seat at the table to try to win a knockout tournament to a World Cup, right? So that starts with tonight, which you can see on Westwood 1. You can listen to on Westwood 1.
There you go.
And then, you can watch that on TNT as well. But I encourage listening to Lucas Panzica and Westwood 1. Big debut for us. We're so excited to bring you that match tonight. And I want to see this team win tonight. And then I want to see this team win in the Gold Cup. And I want the mentality to change, that silver linings are for other teams. Silver linings are for the opponent. That's what I want to see.
Attaboy. As always, my friend, it's always great to catch up with you and see you, because we always see and hear you a lot, and it's going to be a special night for you and Lucas tonight. Go back to your studio audience and the Nashville Zoo that is behind you as well, and the trains and everything. Have a great call, my friend. It's great to see you. Don't be a stranger.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you always, John. Always great coming on the show. Big fan of your work, man.
All right, that's Jamie Watson, everybody. Jamie's going to go finish his coffee. It's always great to have Jamie on. I love his candor and the fact that he's gonna lay it all out for you, and he lays it all out for you to the point to where dogs are barking because they're that mad at him. You've got trains coming in the background because they want to drown him out, and it's like, well, trains disagree with Jamie Watson. This is where things are. Trains disagree with Jamie. But it's going to be a fun night tonight on Westwood 1, on your local Westwood 1 affiliate. Lucas Panzica, Jamie Watson, the U.S. men's national team, and you on the audio side of things. So, yeah, we know where the video side of things are. Here's your challenge. Find Westwood 1 Sports, whether it is on your local affiliate or on the World Wide Webs or however you access Westwood 1. Sync up the broadcast. Do that. That's what you need to do. Sync up the broadcast on your favorite device with Lucas and Jamie and what you see on the TV side. That is your quest. That is your quest this evening. Sync up the broadcast. It has been done in other places, so do it the way that you roll. But no, it's always, like I said, it's always fun. And Jamie knows he's also got golden ticket status, and he knows he can crash anytime he wants. The hour of chaos on Fridays is he's heading to parts unknown to call matches unknown until MLS on air lets us know who the broadcast teams are. Just personal pet peeve. Personal pet peeve is we're now here in hour number 2. Can we please, baby, please. Can we please post the announced teams and the ref and pro and the referee pairings? Can we post them a little sooner than we get them? I know this is something that always happens here on the show, that all of the action happens, all of the breaking news happens when the show is over. I don't know what it is. I don't know what soccer god we angered at whatever stage of our existence, but all of the news around the world breaks when we go off the air. I'm not kidding. It always happens this way. So for our friends across the planet, can we please have news break sooner? I don't think I'm asking for much. I don't think I'm asking for much. And like I said, it's just a simple thing. It's so let me thank Jamie really quickly. Hang on, rolling. All right. So I think I've appropriately thanked Jamie. So as always, it's great to it's always great to have Jamie on. And I had to ask the DC question with Jamie because he and Josh Eastern were a part of that broadcast, and I was like, oh wow, this is painful. So this is where we get into. But now I want to know things sooner. I know that I'm probably stomping my feet, unnecessarily. But can news break sooner? That's all I want. Can the announcements happen sooner? That's all I want. I want our audience to be the most informed audience on Soccer's Morning Show every single day. That's all I want. So it's like news break faster, news break sooner, those kinds of things. That's what I want. So we all can be more informed as we lead into our day, and not have to wait until SDH PM to let everybody know what's going on and what we missed. But yeah, I mean, it's like people calling Jamie in the middle of his interview. Jamie's making a point, so somebody goes an inbound phone call and dumped him. Trains were trying to drown him out. Dogs were trying to drown him out. See, this is all the different kinds of folks that get after Jamie on a daily basis. But yeah, tonight on Westwood 1, Lucas Panzica, Jamie Watson tonight. So sync the broadcast up. And to the point that we were making when it came to Jamie, and I wanted to have the discussion with Jamie about what happened this past weekend. It was an adventure, to say the very least. It was an adventure. I mean, you had 5 matches, and we talked yesterday with Bart about red cards down here. Pars, I do want to get to your point in a second. Yeah, pray. Wait a second here, Derek. Wait a minute. Don't like break news. Is the USMNT like breaking things? Don't tease me. Don't tease me, man. Future stars are going out. Music City Match Day. Walker Zimmerman on it. So yes, 807. TNT True, Max Peacock, Westwood 1, and FDP Radio. Yes, so it is a match day. And Eddie Johnson, speaking of the USMNT, he responded to Landon Donovan's comments. We'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, so Jamie and Josh Eastern were doing the Chicago DC United match, and I had to ask Jamie about what the hell happened. Christian Benteke did not start. He was not dressed out for this match. Haile Selassie scores in the 8th. Jonathan Bamba in the 24th. I did not have Tom Barlow getting a brace, and then 3 out of 4 being getting his 3rd in 35 minutes. 30th, 44th, and 65th. Zinkernagel scores in the 56th. Brian Gutierrez at 90+1. Brian Gutierrez got a really bad red card, and he's got to get himself back in the good graces of Greg Berhalter. So, and then Dominic Baji scored in the 60th. It was a very, very beautiful play, but it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-1 at that point. And then Chicago scored 2 more. Stats on the day. 57% possession for DC, but of course, when you're blowing them out, it doesn't really matter what your possession numbers are. 15 shots to 14, Chicago. Shots on goal. 11 of the 15 shots for Chicago went on target. Blocks, 3-0 to DC. Total passes, DC had like 20% more passes total. 83% compared to 81. 16 corners, 9 to DC. Total crosses, 15 in the match, 11 to DC. 1 offside to DC. Expected goals actually were 2.4 to 2.2. 21 clearances, and Luis Barraza had 4 saves on the day. He had 4 saves and 7 goals allowed. 12 fouls were called in the match, only 12. 3 yellow cards for Chicago and 1 for DC. So let's just, and I saw these numbers. I saw these numbers on the board, and I was like, seriously? So let's get into Chicago, who is in 16 matches, 25 points. They're middle of the pack. So 7 on the board against DC. Obviously, Tom Barlow, your player of the match. No real shock. So lineups, just to give you the statistical breakdown of how completely and totally off the rails this was. No one for DC scored higher than a 6.7, and that was Brandon Cervania. Your back line, which has ties to this state, Connor Antley had a 6. Garrison Tubbs with a yellow had a 5.7. Then you end up with Lucas Bartlett, a 5.9. And David Schnegg had a 6.4. Luis Barraza, who gave up 7 goals, by the way, had a 5.7. That is the lowest score that I have seen in quite some time for anybody between the sticks. Just to give you an idea, Luis Barraza, 5.7, everything practically inside the 18. Goals prevented on 4 saves, a minus 2.72. I don't know how they come up with their numbers, but a minus 2.72 in goals prevented. High claims 4 saves from inside the box, 50 touches, 20 of 33 passing for 61%, 2 of 15 on long balls, 1 dribbled past, lost his 1 ground duel, and that was it. So Luis Barraza on the day, a 5.7. Lucas Bartlett, this was in a 4-2-3-1, basically. Bartlett and Tubbs were your 2 center backs. Connor Antley and Schnegg were your 2 outside backs. Bartlett, a 5.9. 4 clearances, 1 pick, 2 tackles, a dribble pass. 4 of 8 on his duels. Lost possession 10 times as a center back. 105 touches on the day. 83 of 92 passing at 90%. 3 of 7 on long balls and 1 successful dribble attempt. Garrison Tubbs had a 5.7. 3 clears, 2 picks, a tackle, 2 for 2 on his ground duels. 4 times lost possession, 83 touches, 68 of 72 at 94%. Connor Antley at a 6. Played 80 minutes before he was subbed out with 10 to go. 3 clears, a pick, 1 for 3 on his duels, 9 times loses possession, 52 touches as a right back, 34 of 41 passing at 83%, 2 for 3 on his long balls on the day, had 1 shot on target. And then David Schnegg at a 6.4, the highest rated center back. And Schnegg had a higher rating than Jose Kojima, one of your 3 forwards. 1 clear, 2 picks, a tackle, 5 of 7 on his duels. Possession lost 20 times. 20 times David Schnegg lost possession. 1 foul, fouled twice, 70 touches, 37 to 46 at 80%, 2 key passes. Did not complete a cross. He was 0 for 8, 4 of 6 on long balls, however, and did have the 1 big chance created, 1 for 2 on the dribble. But that's what you got at a DC United who had an aggregate rating of a 6.39. Tom Barlow, by the way, had a 9.2 with the hat trick. Zinkernagel an 8.1, Haile Selassie an 8.4, Jonathan Bamba with a yellow card. And Zinkernagel had an 8.1 with a yellow card. Jonathan Bamba a 7.5. Kellen Acosta and Kwame both had high 6s. Backline for Chicago, Andrew Gutman a 7.9. Elliott a 7.1. Omar Gonzalez had a 7.2 and saved a baby, by the way. I don't know if you saw that. And Johnny Dean had a 7.5, the little ball of hate. And then Jeffrey Gall had a 6.3, not really challenged on the night. I'm still wondering how Troy Lesane still has a job, but once again, if you don't give him the resources, and all you've also got to do is look at what's going on in Loudon, and we've discussed that with Kaylor Hodges about what's going on at Loudon, where there does not seem to be a whole lot of money invested into the club on the whole across the board. So 7-1. And it really wasn't that close. It wasn't that close. Austin shut out Colorado 2-0 at Colorado. This was probably one of the more surprisers. Mikhail Dessler, on his way back from injury, scored in the 6th, and then Navarro had an OG 60 minutes later. So 2-0 win for Austin. Then you had 3 matches on Sunday. Portland over St. Louis 2-1 at Providence Park. LAFC 3-1 over Kansas City at BMO. Segura, Buanga from the spot, and Olivier Giroux, MLS's most handsome man, and calendar centerfold at 90+3. Dejan Joveljic scored in the 39th, actually, for Kansas City to take a 1-0 lead. They couldn't hang on to it. Drawn at the break and then give up 2 in the second half. So Kerry Z had a 1-0 lead, couldn't hang on to it in Los Angeles. So then the Vancouver 3-0 win on a match that finished 11-9. Thank you, Nuhu, and thank you, John Bell. We got into that yesterday on Cards and Calls. So that's where things stand. And so once again, it's a chance for folks to make up matches that they don't have when it comes to international play. So if they're in an international tournament, this is a window for them to sit there and make up for those matches. And you saw Vancouver make up for a match, LAFC make up for a match, and all the teams out west that were paired with them. So Vancouver and LAFC got to make up with theirs. Seattle got the chance to make up a match. So all of those folks that for one reason or another had matches to make up, you could use these windows to do that, and some teams chose to. So 5 matchups, 10 of the teams, so 1/3 of the matchups, 1/3 of the teams available in Major League Soccer, and they had the opportunity to do it. So standings in Major League Soccer here coming through the international window. Halfway poll, and this is why when I'm bringing all of our guests, Glenn Crooks we're taping an interview with Glenn Crooks, and we'll have our conversation with Glenn on tomorrow in hour number 2 to get you ready for NYCFC in Atlanta. Philadelphia is at 34 points, 17 matches. Bradley Carnell, for me, one of the front runners for Coach of the Year, in addition to Mikey Veras in San Diego. Cincinnati, 4 points back at 30. Messi and friends with a match in hand. If they win that one, they would be at 32 points, 2 points behind Philly, but they're at 29 points. Match in hand over Nashville, and more goals scored. Nashville's at 29 points in 4th. Columbus is 5th at 28. Red Bulls right now in 6th. One more win. Purple team is 27.7 wins, same on goal difference. They have scored more goals than Red Bulls, have the same goal difference, but once again, one more win for Red Bulls. Charlotte's at 25. Chicago's at 25. 8 wins to 7. Chicago has more goals scored, obviously, after what happened this past weekend. And then NYC has a worse goal difference on Chicago, and they have the same number of wins. Chicago has a match in hand. Same number of wins as NYC, better goal difference. However, Chicago is 1-1-4 at home this year. Lesson learned. Don't play Chicago when they're on the road. NYC below the playoff bar. They're in 10th at 25. New England's at 23. DC United's at 18. Atlanta United's at 17 through 17 matches. Toronto's at 13 and Montreal. 1-11-5 is dead last in the East. 8 points, 1 win, 12 goals scored, 0-4-3 at home. They have not won at Stade Saputo yet this year, 1-7-2 away from home. They've allowed 32 goals, so almost 2 goals a match allowed, and not quite 2/3 of a goal scored per game so far in the Eastern Conference for Montreal. Western Conference, Vancouver, match in hand, still 5 points clear of the pack. 35 points. 10-1-5. 1 loss so far this season in their first 16. Averaging almost 2 goals a match. Takaoka has only given up 12 goals in 16 matches. San Diego's at 30. They have 1 more win than Minnesota. They also have a superior goal difference, and they have more goals scored. Portland, 29 points. They're in 4th. LAFC match in hand. They are at 16 matches, 26 points. Same number of wins as Seattle. 2 matches in hand, more goals scored, better goal difference. Seattle, 18 matches played. Because of Club World Cup, they added the extra match in there so they could kind of be back on their heels a little bit and focus on other things. Seattle, 18 matches played, 26 points. They're in 6th. Austin, 18 matches played. They're at 23 points. San Jose is in 8th. One of the highest scoring offenses in Major League Soccer. One of the most porous defenses in Major League Soccer. 22 points, same record as Colorado, better goal difference by 12. That's your playoff bar. Houston's in 10th at 17 matches, 20 points. Dallas is at 18 points. Sporting is at 16 points ahead of RSL. And All Caps is at 14 points. LAG finally with a win on the board. Holy, thank the baby Jesus. 1-12-4. They've only scored 15 goals in 17 matches. They've given up 36. More than 2 goals a match allowed, not quite two-thirds of a goal scored per match. Well, it's not quite 9/10. 15 goals scored in 17 matches. 2 in 17 is like point, so it's like 92%, 0.92 goals scored compared to north of 2 allowed. So 1-12-4. Galaxy are last in the West. 1-11-5. CF Montreal last in the East. We mentioned how prolific San Jose is offensively. They're 8th in the West, and they've scored the most goals in the Western Conference. And only Chicago and Messi and friends have scored more than them. Chicago, understandably, with that big 7 that they put on the board against DC. Then, defensively, Messi and friends are at 27. What we figured was going to be the case with San Jose is the case with Messi and friends. 27 goals allowed. Charlotte has allowed 27. Chicago's allowed 29. DC has allowed 36. Atlanta has allowed 30. Montreal's allowed 32. So San Jose 28. Kansas City 31. LA Galaxy 36. So, top 7 or 8 goals allowed. It's not a category that you want to be in, but nevertheless. So that's your standings. Once again, Thursday, 7:30, Apple TV, MLS Season Pass, NYC hosting Atlanta on the U12 pitch in the Bronx. 6:30 pregame show with Abe and Maddie, 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. Full-time report after. Mike and Jason kick off at 7:40. And we'll see if Glenn knows why this was a Thursday kick. Like I said, we're catching up with Glenn Crooks later this afternoon. We'll air it in hour number 2 tomorrow. Tyler Pilgrim, Scarves and Spikes joining us. Hopefully Dylan Butler can join us tomorrow. Glenn Crooks will join us at 10:30. Then Thursday is what Thursday is. Thursday is wide open. We'll take a look at what happened with Atlanta United 2 playing Huntsville. That one is also tomorrow afternoon in Athens against Huntsville City Football Club. And we caught up with Steve Cook and Sal Mazzaferro yesterday. So it'll be an early start in that one as I sit here and wander through it really quickly, just to give you the heads up here on the network. It is Huntsville right now in 6th place, 19 points. Atlanta United 2 has played one more match than Huntsville has, and they are 5 points back. But they are only a win out of the playoff picture with all of those draws that they have. 2-4-6-2 for Atlanta United 2. 2-2-3 at home, 0-2-3 away from home. So we caught up with Steve Cook and Sal Mazzaferro yesterday, and we'll play those for you in the pregame show as Atlanta gets ready for Huntsville City Football Club up at the Turner Complex in Athens, and that one will be tomorrow afternoon. It will be not as early a start as it was with NYC, but it'll be a 5 o'clock start at Turner. So 5:03 kick. We'll be on the air about 4:30. Maddie and I will be up there at the Turner Soccer Complex with the call on that one. So Atlanta United 2, Huntsville City Football Club. That one's going to be at soccerdownhere.mixler.com and on the soccerdownhere.net. You go into the listen section. You hit the listen tab. You'll see a red light flashing when there's something live, and you click on that. You can go to the website. You can go to our Mixler channel. Both places get you the call with me and Maddie tomorrow in MLS Next Pro. It's the start of a 4-match day in MLS Next Pro. We'll go over that more tomorrow as the layout of everything. But once again, 2s tomorrow afternoon, 4:30 pregame, 5:03 kick. You can catch it on MLSnextPro.com, or you can sync up the broadcast with me and Maddie. And you can do that at MLSnextPro.com. So 5 o'clock kick on Wednesday. Jason is spiriting his way to the Bronx for the matchup on Thursday, 7:40 kick there. And 92.9 The Game in the Odyssey app. 6:30 pregame, 7:40 kick, full-time report after. That's going to be on the Atlanta United network. And then that gasses everything up for Portland and San Jose. That's going to be at 10:30 on Friday night. So Friday night football on MLS Season Pass and Apple TV, Portland and San Jose from Providence Park. So leading into a very, very busy weekend involving the beginning of the Club World Cup and all of those places that are in between. So that's the quick rundown of everything in Major League Soccer that has us to where we are now. Now, this morning, I keep rubbing, the folks the wrong way, I guess, because it appears that Matt Turner might be headed to Lyon. I'm just saying, currently with the way things are, allegedly, that make sure that the check clears if you're Nottingham Forest. That's all I'm saying. €8 million deal is what is on the table, and so we'll keep an eye on that. Matt Turner, as Jamie said, Matt Turner needs reps. That should be the new title to his movie. Matt Turner needs reps. That's the movie for Matt Turner. So, just, man, you got to get reps. And we'll see what happens tonight. And like I said, it was great to catch up with Lucas and Jamie in hour number 1 to break it all down. And we'll see where things stand when it comes to this group and what they think about this group. Pars, to your point, to your question earlier, Pars, I wish to address this now. So Pars asks the question, and it was a Matt Turner-ish based question. Could it be because MLS signs top talent for attack and goalie, therefore our attackers are international and the goalies are not as developed? Let's go through the starting keepers in Major League Soccer. And let's look at where they come from. And this is also a team choice. So attackers, you want to spend money on offense. And I think that you spend money on offense, you develop defense, and then you either develop midfield or you can bring in money in midfield. So keepers, let's focus on keepers for a second. And then we'll go through the offense to Pars's question. So starting keepers, Philly, Andre Blake and Andrew Rick. Andre Blake, Jamaica, CONCACAF, Andrew Rick, product of the academy. Cincinnati, Celentano, local product. Miami, Oscar Ustari, Argentine. Nashville, Joe Willis, been there forever, so through the system. Columbus, Schulte, through the system. Red Bulls, Coronel. I feel like I need to write down. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. All right, so let's do, for keepers, let's do local in the sense of developed through the league, or imported keepers. Let's do that. Just the starters. All right, so let's do it this way. All right, so Philly, let's go Blake, imported. Cincinnati, Celentano, local. Miami, Ustari, imported. Nashville, Willis, local. Columbus, Schulte, local. Red Bulls, Coronel, import. Orlando, Gillespie, import. Charlotte, it's Christian Kalina, import. Chicago, right now, we'll say Chris Brady and Jeffrey Gall, so those are local. NYC, Matt Freese, local. New England, could be, who's the starting keeper in New England? Earl Edwards Jr., at least recently anyway. All right, so hang on, getting to stats, getting to our stats. Keeping. Okay, so keepers. Aljaz Ivacic. Okay, so for that is imported. So Ivacic is an import. DC United, I'm not necessarily sure you want to know, but nevertheless, it's an import. At least last time out it was with Luis Barraza. Atlanta United, Brad Gazan, U.S. Toronto, Sean Johnson, U.S. Montreal, it's imported. and Jonathan Sirois. Technically for them local, but for our purposes imported. So 8-7 imports versus locals for starting keepers. Now, Western Conference. Vancouver, Takaoka, I think he was an import. San Diego, CJ Dos Santos, that's local. That's a U.S. keeper. Minnesota, Dane St. Clair is Canadian. Portland's keeper. Who is Portland's starting keeper? Portland's starting keeper here. Hang on. James Pantemis. Pantemis or Maxime Crépeau, both Canadian. Okay. So, all right. So, Pantemis and Crépeau are both Canadian, so both export. LAFC, and let's see. So LAFC stats, starting keeper, because I know that it has been more than one individual, so we'll see what it looks like. Hugo Lloris, Thomas Hossel. Okay, so Lloris, import. So from there, then Austin is local with Brad Stuver. Then, let's see. So Seattle, Stephen Fry, local. San Jose, that was Earl Edwards Jr. He is a U.S. product. So I guess we'll say U.S. Colorado's keeper. So, Colorado's goalkeeper, Zach Steffen. So, I guess we go Steffen would be a local. So, Steffen is 12 at local. And, I mean, right now you're looking at, it's 50-50 right now. I still got a handful of clubs here, but it's right now, keeper in and of itself, starting keeper looks like it's a 50-50 proposition. Houston, Dallas, Kansas City, RSL, St. Louis, LAG. So, starting keeper in Houston, and that ends up as Jonathan Bond and Andrew Tarbell and Jimmy Maurer. So, locals, meaning in the United States, in the sense of U.S. versus outside of the contiguous 48. Dallas, Martin Paz is an import. Kansas City, it is not Tim Melia anymore. It is John Pulskamp. So Pulskamp, Bakersfield, California. So he is a local product. So right now we're at 14-13 local, meaning U.S. RSL's keeper, who I'm sure they would love to have someone else in camp, and it is Cabral with getting all the starts. So Remy Cabral, Rafa Cabral, so import 14 apiece. Then it is LAG, who can't quite make up their mind who they want their starter to be, and St. Louis, who is, we'll say for starting purposes, it's Roman Berkey, and then for LAG, it is, who is the starting keeper for LAG as they wander back and forth? John McCarthy. So McCarthy has. And Mikovic. So McCarthy is U.S. product, and Mikovic, and so McCarthy, having played the majority of the matches, that's why I've got him listed as the starter, 11 of the 17. Mikovic is Belgrade, Yugoslavia. So looking at your keepers, it is a 50-50 proposition when it comes to your starters. So literally, it is 15-15. 15 starters listed from the United States, 15 outside of the United States. And I know that some of them, once again, Takaoka, Dane St. Clair, Canadian, Pantemis and Crépeau, Canadian. So, I mean, if you want to slide the bar a little bit, you can. But U.S. product versus non-U.S. product in net in Major League Soccer, 15-15. So that's what you're looking at when it comes to the numbers there. Striker, like I said, I think that defense and defensive positioning is more a U.S. thing, whereas scoring, you want to go from the outside and you want to bring that in. So it is for the midfielders and the forwards that come up through the United States. If they are very good and they want to get the financial windfall that they feel they deserve, they will go overseas. Whereas Major League Soccer will look at talent, and they're looking at more talent from, say, South American countries, Central American countries, and so on, but they're not afraid to bring in the high-priced talent from Europe and overpay for it. So defensively, keeper, backline, just look at Atlanta United, U.S. The further away you get from between the sticks, the more you are inclined as a front office, if you do not develop it internally, is to find individuals and bring them from the outside in. So Pards, I think that's where I think that's where we are when it comes to the talent recruitment. So MLS signing top talent for attack and keeper, 50-50 in net. Attack, yes. Attackers are international for the most part. And once again, if you are a good attacker, then you are overseas. Pepe, Pulisic, Yunus Musa, who is now being recruited, according to Fabrizio Romano, by teams in Serie A. So, if you're the top of the top when it comes to midfield and attack for the United States, you're being recruited and you're going to get paid. And PAID, big bold letters. You're going overseas. But right now, and this is the Matt Turner question, this is the Matt Turner rub. Like I said, we looked at Major League Soccer, and it was literally 15-15 starters, United States upbringing, or locals through academies and such. I mean, Brad Stuver was a tryout camp, and he has turned himself into, and he has become known as one of the top talents in Major League Soccer, and has kept Austin in a lot of stuff over the handful of years that he has been their cornerstone in net. So I think if you look at it, when it comes to the United States, U.S. development from the back to the front, and if there are players that are in the front that are developed, they go overseas, they make their money, and they stay until mid-30s or they want to come home. But the development from Major League Soccer comes from between the sticks, and it's your back line. So like I said, further and further away, that's where players are either going to get paid if they're U.S. talent to go overseas, or be recruited by Major League Soccer to come back in and work their way back toward playing in Major League Soccer. So if that makes any sense. So I think that's where we are. So Pars gave us our deep dive this morning when it came to the lay of the land when it comes to everybody. A couple of things. When you look at Nottingham Forest, speaking of Nottingham Forest, they're mad. Yeah, they're mad. Ben Fisher at The Guardian. We'll go over transactions and things here in a bit. Nottingham Forest have written to UEFA to raise concerns about Crystal Palace's plan to partaking in the Europa League, arguing that the Premier League rivals could be in breach of multi-club ownership rules. If you would please recall the owners for Nottingham Forest. Although technically these days, Evangelinas Marinakis has placed his shares of Nottingham Forest into a blind trust. Therefore, he does not he does not exert undue influence on the day-to-day activities of Nottingham Forest. I do have a bridge to sell you, allegedly. But it still doesn't stop him from being emotional and going out and wanting to rant and rave at his coach and his physio of the club that is in a blind trust that he no longer has control over. So Evangelinas Marinakis might be in one of these pot kettle situations, but he's not, considering that Forrest is in a blind trust. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. How'd you do? How'd you do? I know this will shock you, but here's Fisher's second paragraph. Forest stand to gain if Palace are not permitted to play in Europe next season because they would take the London club's place in the Europa League. There is scope for a legal battle given Forest believe they have grounds to play in the competition. This is Fisher's copy. The Forest owner, Evangelinas Marinakis, who also owns Greek champions Olympiakos, placed his shares into a blind trust to comply with UEFA rules in the event that Forest qualified for Champions League. The belief at Forest is that there is a conflict of interest because the Palace shareholder John Textor also owns a stake in Ligue 1 club Lyon, who have provisionally qualified for the Europa League. Palace qualified for Europe after winning FA Cup, while Forest qualified for Conference League after finishing 7th in the Premier League season. Textor is thought to be trying to find a solution in order to meet UEFA regulations. Remember last week, Textor and Steve Parrish went to UEFA's headquarters in Nyon to fight their club's case to play in Europe. Once again, they didn't reach an agreement. Guardian reported blind trust option in which Textor's Palace shares would be placed in the hands of trustees next season was rejected because the club missed the deadline for doing so. Palace's European position is under threat rather than Lyon's, as UEFA rules state that the club ranked highest in their domestic championship will be given entry into the competition. Lyon finished 6th in Ligue 1, giving them precedence over Palace, who came in 12th in the Premier League. Forrest declined to comment when contacted by The Guardian. So let me get this straight. So Matt Turner is in the process, according to Fabrizio Romano. So Lyon verbally agrees to a deal with Nottingham Forest for Matt Turner. €8 million transfer fee. Now help me out here. I'm about to develop a splitting headache. So Lyon agrees to a verbal deal with Nottingham Forest for Matt Turner over an €8 million transfer fee. Like I said, first and foremost, make sure the check don't bounce. But Lyon's owners are currently trying to figure out how they can preserve clubs being in European football. And the club that you apparently now have a deal with over a player going from Nottingham Forest to Lyon in Matt Turner, the club that is selling Matt Turner to you is in the process of narking you out so they can play in the European competition that you're currently in. Did I miss anything? Nottingham Forest is debating taking Crystal Palace to court, or whichever entity you take to court in a situation like this. Nottingham Forest. So if I'm Evangelinas Marinakis, and I'm in Europa Conference League, I put my shares of Nottingham Forest into a blind trust. So that way, both Olympiakos and Nottingham Forest can perform in European competition. But you're mad at Crystal Palace because they could be in breach of multi-club ownership rules. Lyon and Crystal Palace. So they believe, Nottingham Forest believes there is a conflict of interest because of John Textor, who owns a share of Lyon and Crystal Palace. Palace qualifies for Europe. Forest qualifies for Conference League. but you're more than happy debating taking them to court. Forest believes they have a place to play in the competition. Because if Crystal Palace gets bumped out, that means that the next spot would go to Nottingham Forest. But you want to take them to court over their spot in European football, but you're more than happy to swing a deal with a backup keeper to send it to the team you're debating suing over their spot in European football. I think I've got it. I think I've got that whole thing figured out finally. I think I've got it figured out. So Nottingham Forest is debating Nottingham Forest waves a finger at Crystal Palace, or specifically Eagle Football Holdings. Hey, yo, UEFA. Keep an eye on them. Hey, keep an eye on them. They're shady. Allegedly, they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. Allegedly. But hey, Lyon. You want to keep her? Do you want to keep her? We got one. Sure. So if we sell you Matt Turner, how about €8 million? Okay, is the check going to clear? Sure, it's going to clear. Okay, then let's do that deal. Yikes. So Nottingham Forest is looking to take Eagle Football Holdings or Crystal Palace to sports court, Cass or whomever, over their place because of the multi-club ownership model that Nottingham Forest allegedly fixed when their owner put their shares of Nottingham Forest into a blind trust. But at the same time, Nottingham Forest is more than happy to sell a keeper to Lyon, the team that they're on the verge of suing, over a multi-club ownership model and places in UEFA and European football. And Lyon is perfectly happy to sit there and go, yeah, we'll take Matt Turner. So you'll do business, but you ain't going to do nothing about courts. You go to the court, all bets are off. Judge Wapner, all bets are off. But the accountants get into a room, they sit there and they do a Zoom call, €8 million deal for a keeper. Sure, that's great. Is this check going to clear? Is this wire transfer going to make it? But sure, we'll do that. But we'll take your ass to court, maybe, because y'all own more than one club and we're in a blind trust, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Oh, man. I think I've got that relationship all figured out now. And remember that this group that is allegedly sending €8 million to Nottingham Forest for a keeper owes Atlanta United $3 million plus interest, almost at a year at 2.5%, I think, and $18 million on 9 months of 3% interest. But sure, we'll pay €8 million for Matt Turner to come from Nottingham Forest to go play at Lyon. I mean, seriously, shouldn't this be like serving number 2? Atlanta United allegedly walks up to the front of the countertop. Serving number one. Garth Lagerwey walks up. Yeah, number 1. Serving number 1, and then Evangelinas Marinakis walks up. Sir, are you number 1? No, but I've got an $8 million deal for a keeper. Sir, you'll have to wait your turn. That's what it should be. If the FIFA judgment is in fact what the FIFA judgment is. So if you do the Google search, FIFA judgment Atlanta United. Literally, if you do a FIFA judgment Atlanta United thing, it's not the Georgia bankruptcy blog or anything like that. So maybe it's FIFA Judgment Crystal Palace or Eagle Football Holdings. Maybe if we do that. Eagle Football Holdings. I'm trying to see if I can find it. Bruno Lage versus Eagle Football back in May. Eagle Football Holdings, a family of global football organizations. So anyway, yeah. Brera Holdings comments on Eagle Football Holdings potential IPO. That's one way to get more money. But yes, so allegedly, $3 million at 3% interest on a year, $18 million on 3% for 9 months. But sure, we'll cut an €8 million euro deal on a keeper from a team that's probably going to take us to court and sue us over our spot in European football. Got it. Looks like Joe Bellingham is going to play in the Club World Cup after confirming his move to Dortmund. Chelsea have halted negotiations with Milan for Mikey Maignan after failing to agree to a fee. Kevin De Bruyne in the qualifiers had a 7-goal thriller, so Belgium beats Wales 4-3. And there's that piece of news. Get this. Arsenal's going to play all their WSL fixtures next year at the Emirates. About blanking time. Good on you. About time. Now, we've mentioned the whole thing with Spurs and the £10 million that it's going to take to extricate Thomas Frank from Brentford. Should be happening in the next couple of days. Spalletti is out at Italy. It looks like that Claudio Ranieri doesn't want it. Maybe Gattuso wants it. So we'll keep an eye on that. And keep an eye on that one. Checking the other headlines as we go before we get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we get out of here. Arsenal looks like Arsenal is going to be facing a battle from the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote for Benjamin Sesko. Sam Dean at the Telegraph. 2 Saudi Pro League sides have recently expressed an interest in signing him, one of the more in-demand football forwards in European football. Arsenal, we all know their interest. Andrea Berta, the sporting director, has been working hard to understand required costs, transfer fee, and wages for a number of different options, including Victor Gyökeres. We'll find out more about that on Thursday. Another move for Ollie Watkins, who was targeted in January, regarded by sources as unlikely but can't be ruled out. Telegraph understands Leipzig willing to sell Seshko for €80 million, 68 million pounds. One of the clubs in Saudi looks like it's Al Hilal, and that could drive up the price. Arsenal working to finalize a transfer deal of Kepa for about $5 million. Remember last year he was on loan at Bournemouth. £5 million release clause. Arsenal also remain extremely confident signing Zubimendi. Despite reports that Real Madrid want to hijack the move, Zubimendi looks like he's going to cost about €50 million. Liverpool closing in on Milos Kerkez for 40 or 45. Bournemouth agree on a deal for the replacement. Looks like Rennes left back Adrien Truffert is on his way to Bournemouth. And that's going to clear the deal on Kerkez going to Liverpool. Truffert has agreed to personal terms on the deal, undergoing a medical. Looks like Truffert is expected to cost about £15 million. And so we all know that Kerkez was a long-term target. And so Kerkez out, and it looks like Truffert is in from Rennes. Say that 10 times fast. Rayan Aït-Nouri in at Manchester City. Looks like Ryan Cherky is also headed in that direction. Let's see. Apparently Thomas Tuchel for School had a good back and forth TV interview. Those will always be fun. It looks like Marcus Bettinelli could replace Scott Carson. Carson's only played twice since 2019, by the way. So Bettinelli, who is 33, Scott Carson has left Manchester City. Bettinelli targeted as the right profile to support Ederson, looking for a deal, hopefully to close on Tuesday. Once again, for Club World Cup teams to sign players for the tournament. Remember, today is the end of the extraordinary window. Chelsea keeper would cost a small fee compared with City's current summer moves. Tiani Reinders, Ryan Cherky, Ryan Aitnuri. He's been at Stamford Bridge for 4 years, played just once, recognized by managers as pushing teammates in training. So he's a team guy. So Scott Carson out. Looks like Bettinelli might be in. Carson, who played 4 times for England between 2006 and 2011, leaving the Etihad after 6 years following an initial loan. Champions League medal in 2023, always a backup to Pep Guardiola's first choice. Gave an interview back in 21. City are trying to finalize deals for the squad to be ready for the Club World Cup, with Khaldoun Al-Mubarak, the chair, admitting they were not aggressive enough in the market a year ago, paid the price. All right, gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Let's see what else is on the board when it comes to folks. And we'll get you ready for taking the tour with all of our proven sources and all of that stuff that you folks should be following on the social medias. Manchester City's Jack Grealish lined up as a potential replacement for Florian Wirtz if he leaves Bayer Leverkusen. That's from the 3-letter paper. Remember, right now, Wirtz's price tag is at £113 million. Gyökeres furious that Sporting have gone back on a gentleman's agreement that the 27-year-old could leave this summer for £67 million. That's from Record in Portugal. £34 million deal with Lyon for Ryan Cherky for Manchester City. Arsenal keen to sign Kepa. Burnley valued Maxime Esteve at £50 million amid interest from Bayern Munich, who are managed by Vincent Kompany. PSG's Bradley Barcola, Bayern's top target for a new signing on the wing in the summer. Nico Williams, also another alternative. PSG want Ilya Zabarny from Bournemouth, but the Cherries are demanding £59 million for the Ukrainian center back. Spurs have stepped up their interest in Antoine Semenyo. So this could be a bumper crop for Bournemouth. It's just what they end up doing with the dollars to bring in the talent. Manchester United also remain admirers for Semenyo as well. Newcastle keen on signing Mohamed Kudus from West Ham after missing out on Brian Mbeumo. West Ham considering a swap deal with Chelsea involving Kudus. Hammers prepared to let center back Naif Aguirre leave this summer for £25 million. Spurs, one of the latest clubs to show an interest in Malian winger Dorgelis Nene, 22, who is at Red Bull Salzburg. Checking out all of our other sources and finding out all the news of the morning, by the way. But yeah, the Matt Turner from one club trying to sue another, allegedly. Al Hilal's closing in on an N'Golo Kante loan in time for the Club World Cup, trying to work the loans. Not done yet. The clubs are in dialogue. Also told an inquiry was made on Riyad Mahrez. Chelsea placed a second bid of $42 million on Dortmund winger Jamie Gittins in the ballpark of Dortmund's asking price. No agreement between the clubs yet. Chelsea still optimistic of striking a deal. Never any urgency to get it done in time for the Club World Cup. Chelsea women's team have signed keeper Livia Peng from Werder Bremen on a 4-year deal. Let's see. Who else are we missing here? Bettinelli joins within the hour. 1-year deal. Part of the Club World Cup squad. Nominal fee to Chelsea. 38 million euro fee for Joe Bellingham to Dortmund. 5-year deal from Sunderland. Club World Cup also has withdrawn from the U21 Euro squad for England. David Ornstein was initially the first to report on N'Golo Kante and Al Hilal this morning. Discussions are now taking place over Thomas Frank's backroom staff, with the deal itself on track for Thomas Frank to go from Brentford to Spurs. Meeting was yesterday on the £10 million exit. And so now you're looking at the backroom staff discussions with those happening on track. Leeds made an inquiry on Villa defender Alex Moreno. Burnley showing an interest. Multiple La Liga clubs have made initial approaches. Moreno expected to cost around £5 million. Chelsea and Milan still have that gulf we're talking about. Chelsea made it clear they were prepared to pay $12 million. Milan have stuck to a $20 million plus asking price. Worth noting, Chelsea still retain faith in Sanchez, according to Ben Jacobs, who finished the season strongly. Philip Jorgensen, Georgi Petrovic, and Mike Penders. Chelsea spent around $45 million on Jorgensen and Penders, back both to become elite keepers. Magnan was a market opportunity explored by the sporting directors. Enzo Maresca is not driving the move. Chelsea is sticking to their evaluation. Al Hilal, remember, kicked the tires on Seshko yesterday, told he didn't want to join ahead of the Club World Cup. James Trafford looking at if Newcastle wants him from Burnley, they're looking at $30 million. Arsenal have an agreement in place once again to sign Zubamendi, keeping an eye on that. We mentioned Bettinelli. $8 million for Matt Turner, going from club that wants to sue him to the club getting sued, allegedly. Yeah. Sure. Why not? Aye. Sure. Absolutely. Please. Child, please. That's the best way that I can describe it. Child, please. Fabrizio Romano reporting Kirkesh to Liverpool remains a matter of time. Final round of talks taking place very soon. Truffert is going to be his replacement. Marseille keeping an advance on formal steps for Angel Gomes is free. Expectation for the deal to get done sooner rather than later. That's coming from Lille to Marseille. Yunus Musa and Napoli. This was what we were alluding to earlier this morning. Negotiations already well underway with AC Milan. More contacts taking place today. Napoli hope to get the deal done soon, as Antonio Conte has already approved the transfer as revealed. Once again, that has happened within the hour. The Jamie Gittins deal, according to Romano, €50 million proposal on the table after the $35 million got rejected. Teo Hernandez in discussions with Atletico Madrid after turning down an Al Hilal bid on Sunday. Talks going on with his camp. No proposal at AC Milan. Expectations are level yet. Milan had the deal done with Al Hilal for €35 million and insist on an important fee. Victor Osimhen's deal remains off with Al Hilal since Sunday. No contacts took place in the last 24 hours, according to Romano. Osimhen will consider all of his options available to leave Napoli, with Galatasaray still keen and the race still open. Beginning of the show was when the news kind of trickled out with Fabrizio Romano and Yunus Musa. Napoli in talks with AC Milan to sign him. Conte appreciates the player, keen on joining the Serie A champs. Personal terms are not an issue, and we had mentioned that. Johnny's deal remains underway between Atletico Madrid and Real Betis, but it will not happen today, according to Fabrizio Romano. No chance to close the agreement in time for the Club World Cup. Negotiations still ongoing to get a deal done this summer. Johnny wants the move, so we'll keep an eye on that. So let's see how busy Ornstein is this morning. He mentioned the Zubamendi deal and the initial contact involving Thomas Frank, the Ryan Cherky deal, €40 million in around that, personal terms done to 2030. Medical is expected today for Cherky at Manchester City, and if they finalize it in time, he will be available for the Club World Cup. Brighton bid €40 million for Olympiacos striker Charalampos Kostoulis, and so keep an eye on that one over the last couple of days. So Carson exits, Bettinelli is in. Celtic have announced the signing of Kieran Tierney on a free when his Arsenal contract expires at the end of the month. Left back signed a 5-year deal with Celtic, previously come through their academy before leaving Arsenal back in 2019. Dortmund, once again, Joe Bellingham, €38 million, $43.3 million, paying an upfront fee, according to The Athletic, €30 million, to €33 million for the 19-year-old, the rest coming from potential add-ons. And so we'll keep an eye on that. Remember, God, N'Golo Kante's 34. Short-term loan from Al Ittihad for the Club World Cup, according to Ornstein. And it looks like Dean Houston was trotted out at Real Madrid earlier this morning, so that is officially official as well. Mentioned Jamie Gittins before the show started this morning. Fulham's interest in Arsenal's Reece Nelson is out there. When you look at all of the stuff, remember, today, it is the end of the extraordinary window. So you got to keep an eye on that today. Developments in Manchester United's pursuit of Brian Mbeumo this week, courtesy of our friends at The Athletic. Decided he wants to join United, and other suitors are aware of the choice. United made an opening offer, valued him at 45 plus 10 and add-ons below the level of the fee it would take for Brentford to sell. Discussions continue. Dortmund have expressed an interest in Jadon Sancho to their players' reps. Dortmund, in the process of rebuilding their attack, see Sancho as a potential number 10 behind Girassi in Kovac's 3-4-2-1. Sancho is one of several candidates for the role, with Freiburg's Japanese international Ritsu Doan another. Finances for Sancho would be prohibitive given his current wages. Club remains optimistic about a return to the Westfalen. Brighton working on a deal to sign Italian center defender Diego Coppola from Hellas Verona. Club is keen to add the 21-year-old to Hertzler's squad as a part of a refresh in the middle of the defense. And so also the deeper dive involving the Athletic and Bournemouth. You're sitting there and you're looking at Zabarny and Kirkash and all of these players that are outbound. Athletic reported in April Bournemouth benefited from a £71.4 million owner loan write-off being included in PSR submissions when they recorded the fifth highest net spend in England from 22 through 24. Kirkash and Zabarny were signed during that time. Good work done in the transfer window. So you could end up with £100 million in player profits in a single season. Over the last 13, Bournemouth combined player profits combined to £113 million, like that they would pass with just those two sales in Kirkash and Zabarny alone. Craziness involving all of that. So you're looking at a bunch of different transactions here that we're keeping an eye on. And once again, keep an eye. Gattuso now is looking like he might be one of the favorites in Italy. Gattuso, people. Gattuso. Sometimes it may be good. Sometimes it may be, one of those. I think that'll do for a show. It's a lot of transfer news. It's a lot of stuff going on in Major League Soccer. And remember, tonight, whoa, it is Lucas Panzica and Jamie Watson calling the U.S. men's national match against Switzerland from Geodis. Sync up Westwood 1 and the broadcast, however you are looking at it. Once again, quick reminder about where you can watch and how you can watch. Azerbaijan, Hungary at noon, Netherlands, Malta, 26 qualifying at 2:45, both on FS2. TNT has your USA Switzerland friendly, as well as Peacock. TNT and Peacock have your friendly tonight. Fox Deportes, bottom of the hour, Maurice Reveo tournament, World Cup qualifying on Fox Deportes all afternoon and evening. Telemundo, Argentina, Colombia, Universo, Brazil, and Paraguay, Univision, Mexico, and Turkey. BN Sports Connect. Second half of Kyrgyzstan, UAE, Uzbekistan, Qatar, Iran, and South Korea is at noon. Palestine, Oman, Jordan, Iraq at 2:15. Saudi Arabia and Australia. Serbia and Andorra is at 2:45. Fox Soccer Plus. Pay-per-view World Cup qualifying. El Salvador, Suriname, Honduras, Antigua, Barbuda. YouTube on CONCACAF's YouTube page has 9 matches starting at 3 o'clock. And the women's matchup, Halifax and Ottawa in the Canadian Northern Super League. Tomorrow, it's Tyler, it's Dylan, it's Glenn Crooks to get you ready for the Atlanta United match against NYC. We'll get Glenn's latest and greatest about everything going on with NYC and what he anticipates as we also get ready for Atlanta United 2 and Huntsville City Football Club tomorrow. 4:30 pregame, 5:03 kick. Maddie and I will be in Athens for that one. It'll be on the network, on the Mixler app, and also at soccerdownhere.net. Thanks to Lucas and Jamie for dropping by. Thanks to all of y'all for dropping by. And thanks for everything that you guys do every single day, being a part of the Twitch pitch and being a part of the community here at SDH. Mucho Platiel, play it safe. Since it is the end of the show, it means I get to do this. We'll be back at it again tomorrow, 9:05 Eastern. See you in a little less than 22.